if somebody is saying, okay, I'm in a narcissist, I'm listening to this, I hear it, I know it. How difficult, where do you start that process of getting out of it?
I actually tell people getting out's not the only path forward, because I think if we treat that as the only path forward, people who don't see a path out won't seek help.
Okay.
So I tell folks, unless there's physical violence, and that's a different conversation, let's lift that out. Just, I hate to say just, if there's psychological violence, that's standard in these relationships. But I say to folks, there's no agenda here. Whether you staying in it, not staying in it, I want to allow you to not get lost in it anymore. That this relationship does not define you. This false, twisted, distorted narrative they've created about you, you being crazy, you being demanding, you being needy, you being extra. It's not true. It allows them to retain dominance in the relationship. You know it's not true. And you live your life trying to prove it's not true. And the way you do that is you give up on yourself. I don't need anything. I can do this all on my own. It's okay. And that's what happens to people in these relationships. So it's helping people find themselves. Now, frankly, Tamsen, many times, what ends up happening is as people do that, they may end up finding their way out, but maybe not for another 10 years. But there's a lot of reasons people stay in these relationships. And coming back to all the points we've been talking about in midlife, one of them's money. If somebody has left the workplace for a long time, they did not accumulate. This is one thing that I classically see in these relationships is somebody said, okay, I actually left a career. I focused on our kids. I focused on our family and our household, and his career soared as a result. I mean, listen, honey, if I had someone making my beds, cooking my meals, and raising my kids, I would be the president of something. I can tell you that right now.
A lot more time.
Okay? So I'm using a very traditional gender format here, but that partner's career will have soared. He's narcissistic. I can promise you this too. He was shady with the money. You would sign those tax returns once a year.
Where's the money?
Where's the money? Right? And the number of women who said, it's not like I was dumb about money. I was even working in the business sector, but I stepped out of it for a while, doing work that was extraordinarily important, by the way, raising a family, running a household. That is a beyond full-time job. And then they said, I know everything about money. I'm going to make this money grow. And they would make the money grow, right? And so this belief that I don't know about money, he knows about money. And then when it comes to showtime, all of a sudden it's a forensic accounting nightmare. And so and that's in people who actually have resources.
Right.
Some people get to midlife and there isn't a lot of money. We are in financially trying times. And so some people will say, this happens in LA all the time. I'm sure it happens in New York. The LA real estate market went way up. So even if that primary asset people have is a house, and that house was sold, what those two people are going to get out of it ain't going to buy a new one.
Is nothing. Yep.
And no one could buy the other one out. So they're often looking into a future of, I'm going to have to move out of an area I've lived in for a really long time, or maybe where my adult kids are, my doctors, my community, things that are familiar to me, even a job that's familiar, and the quality of life could really plummet. Social security benefits weren't accumulated at the same rate. So they may be looking into a life of real financial peril. In fact, we know that women in midlife who have left long relationships or are single are often those in the most sometimes financially precarious positions. And so you have these other kinds of issues operating in terms of, I can't afford to leave this. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, we are living in this house. Each one is waiting for the other to die so the other one can have the house. And I'm not, that's not a joke. It's not that either of these people aren't murderous.
I believe that.
But they're saying this, there's no way.
We're just toughing it out.
We're toughing it out.
So you try to teach people to bloom out of the relationship.
Yes.
So if they played small, you're trying to make them get bigger. That's the best thing that you can do inside of one of those.
Flowers can grow out of pavement.
Right. And then who knows? A narcissist might not stay around if they see somebody like that.
Well, if you disengage that. So you're asking, what are the things people can do? What are the boundaries you can draw around it? Radical acceptance. Narcissistic people don't really change, and they sure as hell don't change when they're in their 50s and 60s and 70s.
Do they ever change?
No. Listen, are there unicorns? Sure, there's unicorns, right? This is not the unicorn show. This is the what happens to most people show, right? And so what happens to most people is it doesn't change, and it actually gets sometimes a little bit, when I say worse with age, I think some of the stubbornness, especially as a narcissistic person is losing some of their power in the world, they're getting older and all the things, right? So it's not going to change. stop engaging with it like it will. Like people are like, I want them to know. I'm like, they're not listening to you. They haven't listened to you in 30 years. I don't know why you think they're going to start listening to you. Now, they're not going to listen to you. Write it down. Tell me. Talk to your friends. But they're not listening. And so disengaging from the relationship. And sometimes when people I always say, once you clear the junk drawer out, you can really see it clearly. So clear it out. And what you're going to start to see is like, there's no emotional there. However, whether it's money, whether it's, we can't afford this now, whether it's culture. Some people say in my culture, we don't get divorced. I don't want to be the first member of my family to get a divorce. That's okay. But I always say to folks, don't go to an empty well and think you're going to pull up water. And this relationship's an empty well.
Let's talk about the damage of a replacement partner when a narcissist replaces, and this often happens in midlife, a younger partner for the current or older one. What does that do to somebody?
So a lot of things. Actually, I've talked about this on YouTube. I have actually a video called The Replacement Neurosis. A couple of things happen. Some people have a core wound around this, right? Around feeling replaced. It might have even happened in their family of origin, right? When you no longer did what the narcissistic parent wants, all of a sudden they're like, we have no use for you, but we're going to focus on your other sibling. The idea of being replaced by another human being, I don't care who you are, it's a devastating feeling. No one's replaceable, but there's nothing like a narcissistic relationship to feel like you are. Grandiose narcissistic partners will very often already have their new person queued up. There's always that tiny bit, like they are not jumping into the great unknown. They're going to make sure that they're covered and that they've kind of taken a test drive. And then and only then will they take you down and trade you in, right? Sure. And so there's often already that sense of betrayal that was there. So that's pretty common. And even if that's not the case, that there is actually a discernible break and then a new person comes in, narcissistic people will do this in a boundaryless, cruel, unempathic way. They will try to create the new family right away. They'll try to pull the children you had with them immediately into this new, like sort of family, version 2 kind of thing. They will, they'll have it all over social media way too quickly. It'll be uncomfortable. Now, is it always a younger partner? It's not always a younger partner. It can be. But what the new partner will have, it'll often feel like they're bringing something new to the table. It could be youth. It is often youth. Sometimes it's money. There's a real griftery feel to narcissistic people who date, especially men later on. They'll find someone who's got money, who's got stuff, who's got status, who's got whatever. So it could be those things. So it may not necessarily be that this person is younger, but maybe they got a lot of money from a former divorce or a career or something or an inheritance. So again, we're talking about midlife.
A better than thing, whatever that is.
Better than thing, whatever that is. Home, whatever the status thing is. So for the person who has been either left for, or they've gotten a divorce and then it's down the road that this happens, it can very much feel like a whole new life has come out of this. And many people will report not only the sense of betrayal, if it was in fact an overlap, but also watching friends kind of divide their loyalties. And people will say, am I being irrational, that I am mad that my friend went to their new house for dinner after that my friend knows that my partner was psychologically cruel? I said, no, it's not irrational. And I think everybody feels like they have to be. I always say it's the cool girl phenomenon. I just have to be cool. No, you don't. Be mad. This is why we have dartboards that you could put people's faces on, And so it's a be mad. That's a human emotion, and lean into the anger, because like all emotions, they're like clouds going by in the sky. A new one will come along, and sometimes that anger turns into laughter, whatever that is. My favorite is somebody once made a cake with the photo of the ex-partner. But you know what you have to do? You have to cut into the cake. Then you get to eat it. Like there's all of these metaphors there, right? So find whatever way, but be angry first, because it's the anger of grief. Yeah. And that sense of being replaced, which is such a cultural trope. Sure it is. Right? That now this young person has come along and da-da-da-da-da, or whatever this person is.
I mean, every movie's made of it. So
because it just speaks to how universal a fear it is. this new person is having the same relationship as you, but they may be consuming it differently. It could very well be that your ex-partner has money, and that's very interesting to this new person. And that you know what the psychology of this person is. That's still going to show up there. That transaction works for the new person. It didn't work for you.